Welcome back. In this step, let's look at an important feature related to object-oriented programming called abstract class. We'll understand how you can create abstract classes and also try and understand where you can use abstract classes. Let's start with creating a new Python file. I'll call this animal and say OK. While you're programming, there are certain scenarios in which you'd want to be able to create abstract classes. What do I mean by an abstract class? Let's say I have a class called animal. Let's say it's an empty class. Typically, I'll be able to create instances of these classes, right? So if I do a print of animal, it would create an instance and print. The same thing happens if I define a method in here as well. So let's say I'm defining a method called bark, and let's say I'm creating an empty method. What would happen now if I run this? Same output, right? Nothing changes. In object-oriented programming, there might be certain situations where I don't know what the code inside this method should be, but I want my subclasses to define how this method should behave. There might be situations where I don't know what code to put in here. When I'm creating an animal, I might not know how to bark, and I would want to leave the definition of the method to subclasses. In those kind of situations, we go for something called an abstract class. So we will say we want to create an abstract class, and we would want to say this is a abstract method. We would want to be able to say this is abstract method. The way we can define an abstract method is by adding a specific annotation and extending a specific class. So we would need to make this class extend a specific class and add an annotation on the abstract methods. These annotations and the class is defined in a module called ABC. So what I'll do first is I would import those things in. So I'll import ABC, and that is abstract base class. ABC stands for abstract base class, and I would also import in abstract method. So what we'll do in here is we'll extend ABC class, and we would add a decorator by the name abstract method. So what happens now is when we try to create an instance of the abstract animal, let's see what would be happening. It says cannot instantiate abstract class. Now let's say there is another class which is present. So let's say I'm creating a class dog which is extending abstract animal, and it's, let's say, an empty class. Do you think I'll be able to create an instance of the dog? Let's run it. Nope. It says cannot instantiate abstract class dog because dog is not defining the method. What dog can do is it can go ahead and define the method. It can say print bow wow. So what abstract class allows us to do is we say, okay, every animal should bark. But when I'm creating the class, I don't know what the bark should be. So what we are telling our subclasses is you define how to bark. And what happens in here when I do a print dog? Now I'm able to create the instance, and also you'd be able to see that I would be able to call the bark method on it. So this would print bow bow. What we saw in this specific step are the basics related to abstract classes. In the next step, we will look at another example of an abstract class. Until then, bye-bye.